All right, good day, everyone. I'm Joshua Weisel here in the Weather 225 Storm Studios. Let's take a look at the forecast, and you may hear the fan running in the background, and that's because, well, we're going to see some tremendous heat going forward. The next 48 to 72 hours or so, we're talking dangerous heat across the area, and we're going to be starting off with some triple-digit heat this afternoon. And even worse, some of those heat index values, they're going to be a little bit of a problem. In fact, some of us are even going to see some extreme heat warnings going forward. So let's walk you through what we've got right now. And this is what we've got for the highs across the area for today. Anywhere from the upper 80s into the triple digits. It's going to be very hot outside. And the unfortunate factor is, well, we've got the humidity that's factoring in with this as well. So for the afternoon, it is going to be pretty much one of the hottest afternoons that we've seen so far, not only this summer, but this year. And the worst news is tomorrow's going to be even hotter than that. So let's walk you through what we got for those heat index values across the area. Heat index values anywhere from 105 to 112 pretty much throughout the majority of the area. Now, areas further to the west, we're talking Stillwater, for instance, there could be some heat index values close to 114 today. So I want you to take this heat seriously. If you're working outside, doing any sort of physical activities, you're going to want to make sure that you're staying tuned to the heat and making sure that you're, in tune with your body. And if you feel any sort of heat-related illness signs or anything along those lines, you want to make sure that you're protecting yourself from that heat. So please stay hydrated, take breaks in the shade. In fact, it's going to be an afternoon today, tomorrow, and even Wednesday that it's not going to be one of those things where you can just take a 5-minute break in the shade. For the extended forecast for at least the next couple of days, this may be one of those days that you need a 30 to 45-minute break in the shade and the AC and staying hydrated because it is going to be dangerously hot outside. In fact, the majority of the area actually has heat index values like this the next couple of days, and even some heat-related advisories, extreme heat warnings. Overnight tonight, it's going to be, another warm one. Some of us are going to be approaching that, the 80-degree mark as we make our way into tomorrow morning. There's going to be a chance for some pop-up showers as well across the region. As you can see, there's going to be another low end, around 20% chance for some isolated pop-up showers, even a thunderstorm or two. Not everyone's going to see this activity, but we just wanted to let you know, hey, yeah, we got some isolated pop-up showers, maybe even an isolated thunderstorm or two possible. I'm not going to show you future scan because future scan's only showing about 1 or 2 pop-ups, and when you only get the activity that is maybe 1 or 2 pop-up showers, I don't want you to take a look and it'll show you, for instance, if it shows 1 shower in Fort Smith, if you're in Fayetteville or Tulsa, you're going, I don't need to worry about the rain chances. We're not going to see pop-ups here. It's just that type of thing. 1 or 2 pop-ups possible. Future Scan's not going to do the best job at it. It's going to show what the ingredients are. All I can tell you is some of us have a fair and equal opportunity, around 20% for an afternoon pop-up. In terms of the rain totals, only a couple tenths of an inch. So the good news is we can kind of just roll right past that. So it's not going to be any sort of tremendous rainfall, anything along the lines there. And then the good news continues that with the hot and humid conditions that we've got going on, there's really not a whole lot that, is going to be a problem in terms of the Foghorn morning fog outlook. So with that being said, that's a look at what we got there. Huge shout out to Foghorns. I say this every show just because, I'm incredibly grateful that they're sponsoring the channel. We appreciate them sponsoring our media, and I want you to support them like they support us. They got locations in Fayetteville and in Springdale. Be sure to check them out. And of course, tune in for these updates because they're sponsoring a very important graphic for morning commuters to let you know if there's any sort of impacts with reduced visibility. We'll have a look at that extended forecast here coming up, and I hate to say it, this heat is going to be a problem for the foreseeable future. It's just that time of year. We have a look at the extended forecast. I'll show you the heat index values for tomorrow as well. Stick around right after this break.
If you like our media and forecast, be sure to support us today on Patreon. You can advertise with us this storm season and throughout the year. Contact us today for availability and pricing. Weather 225 since 2015.
All right, and welcome back. I'm Joshua Weisel here in the Weather 225 Storm Studios. Now that we've walked you through the Foghorns morning fog outlook for tomorrow morning, it's time for some bad news, and that's going to be the temperatures tomorrow. I think pretty much all of our county coverage area, minus maybe 1 or 2 locations, is going to be pretty much in the triple digits tomorrow. So it's going to be a significant day for the heat. And I know many of you are probably going, it's summer, we kind of expect this. But for Northwest Arkansas, we don't typically see, a whole lot of days in the triple digits. And for instance, other locations, that upper 90s to lower 100s mark, that's typical for this time of year. But notice there's going to be some areas, especially Stillwater, Tulsa, Okmulgee, even into Fort Smith and Poteau, that could be around the 104-degree mark with the highs. That's incredibly warm out there. And so we want you to stay tuned. If you know anyone that has any sort of illnesses that the heat is going to impact, make sure you're checking up on them. The elderly, people with any sort of significant illness, anything along those lines there. For those with respiratory issues, it may be a good day to just stay inside because the heat and the humidity, it's not going to be necessarily a comfortable factor. For anyone in particular, all of us, we're going to feel it uncomfortable because it's going to be very warm out there, but there are some groups that it impacts especially. So if you're part of those groups, or if you know anyone who is sensitive to those temperature impacts, make sure you're checking up on them tomorrow. Please don't walk your dogs during the afternoon either. I know that we tend to focus a lot on ourselves, on our family, but include your pets into the equation for heat safety. It's going to be dangerous to walk them in the afternoon. It's going to be dangerous for them to be in the yard for a long period of time tomorrow, because when you have the heat and the humidity, they're not going to be able to cool themselves off either. So please take care of your pets. And please, please don't leave your kids or pets alone in an unattended vehicle tomorrow. If it's already dangerous and deadly in the 90s, when we're talking about highs near 105 in some locations, it's going to be particularly dangerous. So take care of yourself tomorrow. Here's the real issue with tomorrow, and that's going to be the heat index values. And we already have some areas that are seeing some extreme heat warnings. I think there's a fair and equal opportunity that the majority of the area could be included in some of those warnings, a little bit more widespread than, for instance, sometimes you get these warnings and it's just for the Tulsa area or just Stillwater or just the River Valley. I think there's a pretty fair and equal opportunity that, Southwest Missouri, parts of Northwest Arkansas, majority of Oklahoma could be included in some of those warnings, because we've got heat index values upwards of 110 to 115 expected tomorrow. And, this isn't to overhype this. I mean, obviously those of us who have lived in the South, this is not, out of the ordinary for some of us, especially myself in North Texas. Back in North Texas, felt like every summer we'd have a couple days that it felt like this. The problem is we've got a lot of people who are new to the area, and you may not be used to this heat. It's kind of the same thing that we say with severe weather. You may not be used to the severe weather that we get here. You're probably not also used to the heat, and we want to make sure that you're taking care of yourself, because this is not going to be one of those days where, if you work outside and, you're new to the area and the heat, you may not be acclimated to it. If you like to work out outside, this is going to be one of those days that you're not going to be able to do it, for hours and hours on end. Take care of yourself tomorrow. It's going to be pretty warm. In fact, going forward, we're into the well above average category, and this is including pretty much a large portion of our coverage area, if not all of our county coverage area. We're not in the slightly above, we're into the well to even extremely above average in some locations. So it's going to be an issue going forward. In fact, as we look to the foreseeable future, there's going to be a little bit of a cool down coming up. There's going to be a system that arrives, into early Wednesday as it's looking. So the good news is temperatures, it's not going to be in 105 degree range. There is going to be a little bit of a drop in the temperatures. But after that, we're going to have a couple of days where the humidity, it may start to push out. But with that activity in the tropics that we've been posting about, by the time we get to late week and early next week, when that makes its way closer to the Houston and Galveston area, that system is going to start pumping more moisture into the atmosphere in our direction. And that means that we may start to deal with more extreme heat index values with the summer heat that's on the way, because we're going to be kind of sandwiched between some high pressure in that system. We'll need to wait and see how that interaction works. We're not going to get too ahead of ourselves. I'm just letting you know ahead of time that we could be dealing with that there. Still in the average range for precipitation. So the good news is, at least, we don't have any foreseeable, days where it's going to be an all-day washout or a week stretch, kind of like what we saw over June. So still in that normal range. So it's not going to be completely dry. It's also not going to be completely rainy either as we move forward. So let's get into the 7-day forecast. We're forecasting highs in the upper 90s, even triple digits in Northwest Arkansas. And like we said, it obviously gets hot during the summer in this part of the country. We all know it. We've all experienced it. Those of us who have lived here for years, it gets hot here, right? Especially July, August, September. It doesn't get into the triple digit heat all that often in Northwest Arkansas, Obviously, the River Valley, it's a little bit warmer, but this is why we want to let you know, hey, it's not going to be one of those days where, it's hot and humid and you can go about your day, right? If you're working outside in particular, any physical activities in the afternoon, you need to be cautious and recognize the heat-related illness signs, everything along those lines tomorrow. We just want to be extra careful with it. You can find heat safety tips on weather225.com. Head on over to our weather safety tab. And it not only has, flood, lightning, and severe weather safety, we actually have a whole section for heat safety for you, your pets, your work site, things along the lines there, completely free. You can access those. You can actually save those photos to your album as well, so you have them with you all the time, or just bookmark the page. And then here's a look at the real issues that we've got going on. The River Valley is going to be anywhere from 102 to 104, depending on the location, with heat index values upwards of 108 to 115 possible. A little bit of a drop in the temperatures, not by much. Notice Wednesday. And then as we head into the late week, upper 90s is a little bit more persistent. And then as we get into Sunday, and this is when we start to see that system making its way closer to the southern plains as it's off the Texas Gulf Coast. That's going to pump some more moisture. That means we could be dealing with some more problematic heat going forward. And if you're like me, all heat, kind of a problem. I know kind of back and forth, people are, pro-winter temperatures or pro-summer temperatures. Let us know in the comments your preference for the heat. Would you rather it's, cold all the time, hot all the time? If you ask me, my favorite weather, if I were to, if I could just set a thermostat for the weather in the region, I'd have it always between 73 and 75 and sunny all the time. That would be my preference. Eastern Oklahoma, very similar to the forecast in the River Valley. Triple digits, and then upper 90s, and then Southwest Missouri, we're also going to be hitting some triple digits in those areas as well. Take care of yourself going forward. Stay hydrated, take breaks in the shade, take care of you, your family, your pets. It's going to be a hot stretch of weather over the next 48 to 72 hours. We'll be here through it, letting you know the very latest. So stay tuned with Weather 225. We'll have the very latest here coming up.